Hello, my friends. Rob Roselli coming to you once again on the Not Fox News Network. Facebook, Rob Roselli 1, Twitter at Rob Roselli, and of course the website boxofsunglasses.com. That's one word. Today being Thursday, November the 17th. Time's going very quickly here. And on the last several shows, we've been covering the occult conspiracy, and also if you go on my site, the homepage boxofsunglasses.com, you'll see the links there to my well, back to this and to the YouTube channel. So there you can catch past videos discussing the quote occult conspiracy and the quote conspiracy in general, going all the way back to August, as we've covered a lot of material, including Revelation 17 and 18, the Federal Reserve banking scam, this scam we call the presidential election here in this nation, and we'll get to that a little bit. But all is covered there on the YouTube channel, and it's again boxofsunglasses.com, the homepage, the link, and right below the link are my two books, The Un-American Genocidal Complex, which basically documents the American eugenics movement as established by Charles Darwin, and social Darwinism. Okay, which basically sought to euthanize and incarcerate people they considered unfit, not worthy of survival, as in survival of the fittest, into sanitariums and hospitals and mental institutions around the nation. These were the American liberals of the 1800s who also put a black man in the Bronx Zoo as proof of evolution. And of course, in the meantime, we had these Nazi rabble-rousers over in Germany who and Adolf Hitler was getting his start, thanks in bunch to the American progressive liberal eugenics movement of the 1900s, again fueled by Charles Darwin's scientific scam known as evolution, and of course this culminated in the Nazis in World War II, and of course perhaps the most famous out of this American eugenics movement came this desire by this evil woman, this demon, this Queen Jezebel Hillary of the early 1900s, known as Margaret Sanger. Okay, and her big thing was, well, why are we going to spend money and deal with euthanizing these imbeciles, morons, misfits, and human weeds, in particular Negroes? And I'm quoting Margaret Sanger. Why not kill them before they're born? Of course, this became known as the American Birth Control League, and it was, not surprisingly, was an Adolf Hitler favorite. And today we're known this organization as Planned Parenthood. Okay, so yes, when these cupcakes, these modern-day brown shirts are out in the streets in 21st century, 2016 post-Trump election, out in the streets calling Trump a racist, anti-woman, and a Nazi, and Hitler, I cannot think of anything more ridiculous and dumber than the fact that these idiots, parents, now think about this. You're dropping 200 grand on juniors' college education, and they're so stupid that they're out there calling Trump, Hitler, and a Nazi, funded by George Soros, a Nazi collaborator, an anti-woman, and all this other stuff, and anti-black and racist, and meanwhile funded from George Soros, a Nazi collaborator, and supporting organizations, far left-wing organizations like Planned Parenthood, which, as I've just said, was known as the American Birth Control League, which was a favorite of Adolf Hitler for eliminating the undesirables in society, like poor white people and the, quote, Negro. So I don't know how much dumber people can get in this nation, but there's no depth. I'm convinced at this point, and it's spiritual. I mean, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and Satan has blinded these people. There's no way people can be this stupid on such a mass scale, and it be an accident or even human in nature. It's just not possible. I mean, and again, this is why I say the Bible is at the core of the quote conspiracy. And I listen to a lot of economics people, not mainstream people, Gerald Celente, Jim Willey, Gregory Mannarino, and you can YouTube those names, go on YouTube, and they provide excellent information. But I believe a lot of these people are missing the big picture here, and that there is a spiritual element to this. Okay, there's no other way to explain this level of mass psychosis, ignorance, and just outright stupidity. Okay, but chaos is being bred, have no doubt. It's being institutionalized and induced. We will have a civil war in this nation. And my money is still on the Obama horse, the Pharaoh Barry, this multi-name scam, this ghost, this 3 birthplace, more names than a Manhattan phone book scam. Pharaoh Barry in the White House. My money's still on the Obama horse, not leaving the White House, be it the World War III, which we're going to discuss on tonight's show, the induction of World War III, economic martial law, outright martial law, riots, or whatever. So in other words, there's no way that our real controllers, okay, not these idiots you see on TV and Fox News, are going to cede control because pesky, 200 million pesky Americans were pissed off enough to go in and put Trump into power. Okay, it's just not going to happen. All right, these people have been at work for their new Atlantis, okay, which is the name for the United States, or what I call Mystery Babylon, since the Garden of Eden. There's no way they're just going to let it go and walk away from their plans. Okay, that is the induction, again, of World War III, martial law, 90% reduction in the world's population. Basically, the phoenix rising from the ashes in honor of their dead god, Osiris, okay, or Shiva, okay, whose image appears outside the CERN Hadron Collider over there in Europe. Okay, Shiva, of course, being the Indian god of destruction and life, which is a very interesting combination, but it makes a whole lot of sense when you understand the occultist demons, Luciferians running this nation and in fact the world, Rockefeller, Soros, Kissinger, Brzezinski, and the rest of them, okay, because it's the order out of chaos. Okay, so when you read the Georgia Guidestones, okay, what I consider the anti-Ten Commandments, okay, brought to us by one Robert Christian, who, by the way, it's a whole other subset of information, and you can read about that on my site if you go through on the table of contents, read the Robert Christian page. I probably have several articles, probably equates to at least 2 or 3 books of information on the enigmatic Robert Christian, okay, who just so happens to align with the Revelation 13, the mark of the beast, okay, where it says to count or calculate the number of the beast, and that being 666, or 6 plus 6 plus 6, okay, just so happens to align with the 18th degree, or the Rose Cross degree of Freemasonry, American Scottish Rite Freemasonry, which is not an accident. It is in fact in honor of their god, Satan. I'll just come right out and say it, Satan, who walks the earth, I believe, in the form of Robert Christian, and you're not hearing this information on any other show, but what he was the euphemism of the person that gave us the anti-Ten Commandments of the Georgia Guidestones, okay, right here, the 322, and this aligns with the 322 Skull and Bones, March 22nd, 1980, was their founders. Okay, the 322, we've discussed this in the past, the 3 columns of Freemasonry, okay, along with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So the occultist, the deep occultism of our leaders is not lost. Okay, the biblical theology and, quote, mythology throughout the world is not lost on our Lucifer, Satan worshiping criminal Illuminati overlords. Okay, and that's really the power behind what's going on, and their power in turn is derived from one Robert Christian. Okay, so these things start to make a lot of sense when you start putting them all together. Okay, and a lot of people are missing this information. Okay, nobody else is talking about this stuff. I don't know how many people are listening right now or going to listen to this video at some point, but have no doubt, no one else is talking about this stuff. Everybody's missing it. These so-called evangelicals, these boobs that get on TV with, these Christian so-called Zionists, these Jewish Jesus people, and Israel's God's chosen people, and these other morons. They have no idea what they're talking about. None. No biblical idea what they're talking about. And that's probably a good time to just, re-emphasize the 3 principles on this show. I try to keep it simple, and one is that the Bible is the infallible Word of God, and it serves as the core of the quote conspiracy. And you can sit here and talk economics and Federal Reserve and Federal Reserve notes and debt slavery and all this other stuff, and trying to convince the people to come out of it. And it ain't going to happen unless there's a spiritual awakening vis-a-vis, you know, say the people of Nineveh back there in the book of Jonah, way back in the Old Testament. And Trump's not it, by the way. I'm not, you know, I'm not a huge Trump fan. By the way, parentheses. I mean, Trump, the reason the people that hate Trump, not because they hate the man. They hate Trump because they hate America. They see Trump as representing America, what this nation used to be. Now, whether he's 100%, that's 100% accurate, whether Trump 100% accurately represents what I consider the original Christian foundational America, I don't think he does. I mean, he's a step back from these morons, leftists, and losers that have been running this nation for the past several decades, but he's not even close to this nation's Christian founder. But this nation has moved so far off its biblical roots, Christian roots, that Trump seems like a hero. Okay. But that being said, just getting back, I mean, there's no other way to just look at it. You can't understand this show. You can't follow it without just understanding and believing that the Bible is the core of everything, and the quote conspiracy. There's no other way to explain it. As I was alluding to before, the mass psychosis and stupidity, for example, of these little college brown shirts out there protesting Trump and calling him Hitler, in light of the fact they're being supported by an ex-Nazi collaborator, George Soros. But anyway, the second principle is that Israel, I was just alluding to this before, is that they're not God's chosen people. Okay, and I'm not anti-Israel. I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm not one of these anti-Zionist people. I mean, I support the nation of Israel. I respect their position, and they're fighting for themselves. Okay, but Israel is not God's chosen people. I can't think of anything dumber from a biblical standpoint than when these people get up there and, you know, say God can't break his covenant with Israel, and, you know, way back there in Genesis 12 with Abraham. I mean, I could spend several shows just talking about the biblical ignorance and idiocy of statements like that. I mean, the term New Testament means covenant, new covenant. I mean, you know, Jesus, you know, sitting down with the disciples, says, you know, this blood represents my new, you know, this wine represents my blood, which represents a new covenant. Okay, and the Apostle Paul had to be extricated from the Jewish religion before becoming the Apostle Paul. All right, and then he railed against the Jews, and the Jews railed against him. I mean, the entire book of Acts. I mean, he's going into different cities: Antioch, Iconium, Lystra, Corinth. Okay, really Rome itself, Jerusalem, obviously, all over the Middle East and the Roman Empire and the Jewish world. And they were taking him to trial and beating him and stoning him. Okay. These God's chosen people. I mean, Jesus himself asked them how they can escape being condemned to hell, and calling them in Matthew 23 and calling them children of hell, John chapter 8. Okay, sons of your father, the devil. Okay, John the Baptist in Matthew 3. Okay, he's saying, you know, you den of vipers, your generation of vipers, how can you, you know, who warned you to flee from the coming wrath? You know, think not that your Jewish roots can save you, or that you're Abraham's children. You know, God can raise up children from Abraham from these stones. I mean, that's the messenger. Okay, that's the Elijah talking about in the book of Malachi, talking to these, you know, to God's chosen people. I mean, and I'm just barely scratching the surface of the New Testament. So I don't get these people at all. Okay, these so-called Christian evangelical and these Israel first people, these morons. And the reason it's really bothersome is because they throw everything off as far as the book of Revelation goes, okay, with their idiotic literal interpretations of Revelation, which make no sense. And in a future show, we'll go through the entire book of Revelation and explain them. If you go back to the book of Psalms and Daniel, and a lot of the language in Revelation is symbolic and figurative in nature. Okay, and there's people out there that say disagree with this. You know, we're going to have two witnesses, all this other nonsense, and we're going to have a 7-year tribulation and a rapture. No, we're not, dummies. I mean, the language is clear. Okay, you got to dig for it, but the information's there. It's not Jeremiah. The language. It's just not. I mean, and there is a link on my site again. boxofsunglasses.com, Mystery Babylon USA, and I delve into this. The United States is the Mystery Babylon, okay, and the way current events are going to happen, the way it's spelled out, the way I spelled it out there, and we reviewed it again. If you can go watch the YouTubes, or you can read about it on the site, is exactly what's happening in the world right now, okay? You're going to have an economic collapse. You're going to have a World War III. And destruction and chaos. And it's all going to happen very quickly. Okay, it's not going to be on some idiotic, timeline, some pre-tribulation, and then we have to wait for the Jewish temple to be built. I was watching another. Actually, I should just probably break real quick. Just number 3. This that we're kind of mixing and matching here my 3 principles, and then principle number 3 is that the United States is the Mystery Babylon of Revelation. Okay, so just to review real quick, I know we'll go off on tangents. Number 1, the Bible is the infallible Word of God at the core of the quote conspiracy. Number 2, Israel is not God's chosen people. Okay, they're privy to God's salvation plan like the rest of us. Okay, through Jesus. Okay, through forgiveness through Jesus. Okay, John chapter 14. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. No one cometh unto the Father but by me. And of course, the famous John 3:16. For God so loved the world, and okay, that he gave his only begotten Son, so whoever believes in him shall have eternal life. And it goes on to say, the judgment, people that believe in him are not judged, and people that don't believe him have already been judged because they do not believe in the Word or God in the flesh, in Jesus. Okay, and I'm paraphrasing John chapter 3 after 3:16, but the point is that Jesus is it. Okay, and the Jews are just as privy to that as any one of the rest of us, but not God's chosen people. And that, of course, segues into 3, which I was just talking about, which is America is no doubt the Mystery Babylon of Revelation 17 and 18. Okay, so what I was starting to say is I was watching another video of another so-called Christian, sitting there and saying that he was criticizing another person that was saying, well, we're going to have an economic collapse around January 2017. Now, I don't set dates. I mean, I think the date is getting close based on the quote static and traffic of news, the not Fox News anyway, like as in the not Fox News network. And if you listen to some of those names I mentioned before, you'll realize that between the bond markets, what the Chinese and the Russians are doing, and the economic war they're waging against this nation, Mystery Babylon, the economic collapse isn't far off. Okay, but anyway, I was watching this one video, and the guy's like, well, the economic collapse can't happen in January of 2017 because the Jews have to rebuild the temple. And I'm like, what imbecile? There is no physical Jewish temple that's going to happen. Okay, the body of believers is the temple, is God's temple. Okay, so if you 2 Corinthians chapter 6, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, Ephesians 2, 1 Peter chapter 2. Okay, I mean, the language is very plain as to what the temple is. I mean, Acts chapter 7, I mean, Stephen the apostle, and again, in front of God's chosen people, right before he gets stoned to death for being an apostle of Jesus, God's chosen people, not only they killed Jesus, after Jesus told them he called them children of the devil, and he went out and killed them. Okay, made a deal with Judas. Okay, Judas, who was indwelled by Satan in John chapter 12 and Matthew 26. Okay, so God's chosen people, want to kill Stephen. Okay, who became the first martyr in Acts chapter 7. Okay, but Stephen, right before that, he asked him, he said, he's paraphrasing God. He's God saying, what temple will you build for me? Or where will my resting place be? Okay, so in other words, God's saying, what the hell do I care about some stone temple? Okay, this goes back to Matthew 24. Remember, Jesus said, see these stones, not one shall be left upon another. The whole thing's going to come crashing down. He's talking about the Jewish temple. That's the third Jewish temple destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. And of course, that language is symbolic. Stones being people, and the stone temple, of course, being the, another offshoot of this thing. Okay, the temple of the Freemasons, the ancient pyramid of Giza. Okay, talking about economic collapse, so you can start seeing how this stuff ultimately ties together. But that's what Jesus was talking about under the surface. Okay, so for this person to call himself a Christian and saying, well, the Jewish temple has to be rebuilt, it's already rebuilt. It's the body of believers. Okay, but this is what I'm saying. When you have these Jewish first people and these biblical literalists, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. The world is blowing up around us, and these idiots are sitting there waiting for a group of I don't know, Jewish priests or whatever to rebuild the temple. They can't even, you can't even get on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem without practically starting World War III, much less, come to an agreement with the Arab world that they're going to build a temple there. How many years that would take? We don't have years. We don't have that kind of time. This is my point of contention. If it seems I'm being a little harsh, and forgive me, Lord, forgive me if I am being a little bit harsh on some of these people, but the hour is getting short. Time is getting short. Okay, and to keep listening to these people are going to be taken by surprise, and the ones that are going to be most taken by surprise are these evangelicals, so-called, and their followers, okay, who are sitting around thinking they're going to get raptured out of here, and they're going to go in heaven and wait for their their Jews for Jesus buddies down there in in Jerusalem, and then their rebuilt temple, and I guess the Antichrist with the the 666 stamped on his forehead, 2 horns, is going to come out of the Jewish temple breathing fire, and I don't know, with a pitchfork, and the 2 witnesses are going to come out and start yelling at him and breathing fire and all this nonsense. Again, these people have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Okay, none. Reality is going to be harsh. Okay, and so all this stuff is starting. It ultimately connects. Okay, now to make my point, I mean, we've been going through, just to getting back to the occult conspiracy, and we'll pick it up here with the Third World War. I read this last time, but it's worth reading again. Okay, because remember, we had World War I, which was a setup. Okay, Woodrow Wilson and the American liberal, progressive, liberal, again, another useful idiot of the Carnegie, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan gang, Rothschild gang that gave us the Federal Reserve System. This idiot Woodrow Wilson, hero to Queen Jezebel and the other American liberals. But just like the American liberals of today, he was nothing more than a useful idiot. Okay, signed into law the Federal Reserve System, got us involved in that scam known as World War I by basically lying, saying, re-elect me in 1918 and or 1916, excuse me, and we won't be involved in World War I. But a year and a half later, or thereabouts, guess it was going, full bore into World War I. Okay, after that floating ammunition dump known as the Lusitania was sent into the into the English Channel, the Germans warned the Americans not to float on it, not to be on it. And of course, the Lusitania was sent, and it was carrying war supplies to England, so the Germans torpedoed it. Now, we had no problems with Germany. We weren't enemies with Germany prior to that. We were supposed to be an independent nation. Now, whether we ever escaped, the Rothschild Anglo banking system back in the Revolution, I mean, that's a story for another day. I mean, I happen to think we probably did not fully. And if we did, we were right underneath their grasp again with the establishment of the Rothschild Federal Reserve System. But anyway, so, that's just a very quick overview of World War I. Okay, got the United States involved, the Russian Revolution, that whole thing. And then, of course, as a result of World War I, Germany was beaten down and created a power vacuum, an economic and a political power vacuum, gave rise to this guy. Okay, this is covered in here, the Un-American Genocidal Complex. So World War II was a setup. Okay, Hitler got all his ideas from the Anglo-American, eugenics, Darwinist, progressive crowd. Margaret Sanger, okay, Charles Davenport, and these genocidal maniacs, okay, who have remanifested themselves and, camouflage themselves in the radical environmental movement, by the way, but don't want to go off on a tangent right now. But so there's World War II in a nutshell, and of course I.G. Farben, this Standard Oil spinoff, General Motors, Ford, ITT, IBM, DuPont. Okay, it's a who's list of American industrialists. Okay, Wall Street bankers, Brown Brothers Harriman. Okay, we're Prescott Bush, granddaddy to the Rhino, Skull and Bones sellout Bush family. Okay, the establishment Bush family. Anyway, we're all involved in the industrial support for Hitler's war machine. So World War II was a setup. Okay, Hitler doesn't exist without a lot of Anglo-American spiritual, Darwinist, and industrial support. So in other words, there is no World War II without the bankers and the Federal Reserve Gang. Okay, so which makes World War III all the more interesting. Okay, now Albert Pike, you know, he talked about World War II, and again, you can read this all direct, and I've read this on past shows. Okay, um, about Pike's letter, what he had to say about the three world wars, and as if they're scripted, and they are scripted. Okay, like today's impending World War III is scripted. Okay, with this whole Syria Ukraine fiasco. All right, the United States, you know, not that I'm defending radical Islam or anything, but we go around and we bomb the hell out of these nations: Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, now Syria. We create political power vacuums. We destroy nations. We kill people. And I wonder why people get so pissed off and go off and join these terrorist groups. All right, now I'm not justifying them 100%, but you know, we're not the exceptional nation that these Rhino Fox News hacks, Rush Limbaughs of the world to have you believe. Okay, with our partial birth abortion and the like, and our warmongering and our war starting. The audacity to call ourselves the exceptional nation and give ourselves a blank check to start wars everywhere because we're fighting terrorism, whatever that means. Well, it explains why the world, if you go back into Revelation 17 and 18, which, you know, as I explained in that link, this explains, you know, between the economic scam known as the IMF and the Federal Reserve and the Bank of International Settlements, this global loan sharking operation, and our wars and our hypocrisies, okay, explains why the world or the beast hates the whore. Okay, and that's out of Revelation 17, and we're seeing that unfold as we speak. Okay, but we're coming to at some point we're coming to a level of insanity here that cannot be humanly described, except that the chaos that's being induced here is being induced by the father of lies. Okay, Lucifer, Satan, or who I'm calling Robert Christian. Okay, he's feeding this whole thing. Okay, he's feeding the Rothschild Anglo-American bankers, who then feed the Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan gang. Okay, and some of these people are still around. Rothschild, Rockefellers, there's still some leftovers. I mean, obviously the original John D. Rockefeller, the original Rothschilds, J.P. Morgan, these people are gone, but their descendants are still around. David Rockefeller, there's still a bunch of Rothschilds running around in Europe. Once in a while, they'll show their faces on the news somewhere, but generally they stay out of public view. Of course, there's Soros. Then you have the Rockefeller henchmen, Kissinger and Brzezinski and the like, and the whole Bilderberg crew, and that whole thing. So when I say these names, I mean, yeah, they did exist, but they still exist. Okay, and again, they're the ones running the world. So you get to a point where you just can't explain these things without a biblical background or in light of the Bible. Okay, because you get to a point of just outright insanity, and you realize the only way this makes sense is that it doesn't make sense. Okay, it's pure. What we're talking about is pure mayhem, pure chaos, pure darkness. Okay, World War III, economic collapse. Who knows what natural calamities and unnatural calamities. You get into the whole geoengineering thing, and I don't have time to get into that right now. You know, not that I know a lot about it. I know generally, you know, the chemtrails. You know, you look up in a beautiful blue sky and a beautiful sunny fall day, and all of a sudden, you know, a dozen jets at high altitude fly overhead with, you know, horizon to horizon, putrid white clouds of crap. Okay, that's geoengineering. Now, those aren't contrails. Okay, contrails don't stick around like that for that duration. They don't go from horizon to horizon and dissipate into some milky white crap. But anyway, so that's, you know, anyway, let's get back to disasters and natural and unnatural disasters. But the insanity, okay, of what's going on. I mean, you get to a point where the whole trying to make sense or logic of it just completely breaks down. And the only way to make sense of it is to say that the father of lies is in charge of the whole thing. And I try to illustrate that in this book here. Okay, this is also available on boxofsunglasses.com. There's an Amazon link to it. But this book explains it. The reason I wrote this is to try to verbalize or to explain things. That's why I made the main character a Satan character who is based on the Robert Christian character that I described, you know, the mysterious person who founded the Georgia Guidestones. mysterious person known as Robert Christian. I try to kind of verbalize things, and it helps kind of explain things, sort of, to make sense. But the point is that Satan is the father of lies, is pure evil, and his only goal is to take as many people down with him as he can. That's the only thing that makes sense. You get to a certain point where it's okay. These people are going to start World War III. Why? Because they don't want to see the banking system fail, or they're mad because Syria doesn't want to light some gas pipeline go from from Iraq to Turkey, or those explanations are but that breaks down. So wait a second, you're going to nuke the world, you're going to risk World War III to save a fiat banking system, or you're going to take over, you're going to capture the world, but at the same time you're going to induce a war with Russia and nuke the whole world and ruin the whole world? That doesn't make any sense. These are not stupid people. Okay, so the only thing that makes sense is what we're reading right here in Albert Pike's letters. These people are serious Satanists. These people aren't screwing around. Okay, these people are serious. Okay, the Garden of Eden is real. These people think they're privy to to the life and to the godlike status that the serpent promised Eve way back in the Garden of Eden. Okay, they're serious about starting World War III. They're serious about reducing the world's population by 90%, and they're well on their way. Okay, with the un-American genocidal complex, I mean, it's this is a Cliff Notes / snapshot of the quote conspiracy. I mean, this is only good, if you count Hitler in World War II. He's only good. He's kind of a lightweight. He's only good for around 50 million deaths. Okay, you start throwing in Mao and Stalin. Okay, now you get into fractions of a billion, but you still kind of lightweights. Okay, still nothing. Turn into a laced smallpox vaccine with the AIDS virus. Okay, the HIV, the technical name virus. Okay, you're all right. Maybe you're 40, 50 million more American gays and and African blacks. Okay, you might be getting to a billion. All right, still kind of lightweights though. So what's the real heavy? What's really going to get the world a 90% reduction in population that these things, the anti-10 commandments, call for? That's an all-out nuclear war. Okay, there's your chaos. Okay, your economic, your political chaos, which is just the opening act. Okay, it's the national anthem in a football game. Okay, the actual game that's going to be played is World War III. All right, and again, it's not going to wait around. I can't say it enough. It's not going to wait around for some stupid Jewish temple, okay, or some comic book antichrist or whatever. All right, so let's just say the Third World War must be fomented by the taking advantage of the differences caused by the agent of the Illuminati between political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. So there's your Israel. Okay, there's your Israel versus the so-called religion of peace setup. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. And that's very interesting, by the way, just to take a break. Now, Israel was reestablished in 1917 by something called the Balfour Declaration, which was the British under their real leaders, the Rothschilds. They wanted to retake Israel, in particular Jerusalem. Okay, I happen to think they were after whatever it was the Knights Templar were after way back there, and around 800 years earlier, around 1200, it was part of it. And part of it is this right here. Okay, they're looking to set up. So as far back as World War I, right in the middle of World War I, because Britain was able to, the Ottomans were fighting on the sides of the Germans, who weren't really our enemies, as I just discussed. They were made into our enemies. But anyway, we joined with Britain and France, and the rest is history, so they say. But part of that war, Britain took back Jerusalem, which had been under Ottoman, Turk, or Muslim rule for 400 years. Okay. So we're starting this. So now wait a second. So now we're here for World War III. Wants this war between Israel and the Muslim world. So that to me tells me that the Rothschilds, you think that lends credibility to these letters here. Okay, so we have World War I, and then we have the World War II documented here. Okay, now we have World War III. Because the establishment of the retaking of Israel in 1917 and any the literal establishment of the Jewish state in 1948, which has all these, these American so-called evangelicals jumping for joy, saying, "Oh, there's God, God's regathering His chosen people and the reestablishment of Israel and all this other nonsense." Dummies. It's right here, okay? It's right here. It's in these words that I'm reading right now. And just to break for that for a second, getting back to the Bible, the Jewish state was to be reestablished, and that's in Ezekiel chapter 36. You can read about it probably towards the end. Again, it's Ezekiel 36. God said he'll reestablish Israel, but He's going to do it not because of what the Jews have done, but because at one time the Jews were God's chosen people in the Old Testament, and they're really making them look bad. Okay, so in other words, the Jews and their Kabbalah and all this other mystical nonsense really serves as the backbone to Freemasonry and these Luciferians that are running the world. Okay, if you look through this, and you can see evidence of that. Just to show you, I'm not just making this up. Here's the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Okay, Hermetic in honor of the Greek god Hermes, or the Roman god Mercury, or the Egyptian god Thoth, who I equate to Robert Christian, by the way, who we talked a little bit about before. But anyway, there's your Jewish star. Okay, your so-called Star of David, which isn't the Star of David, it's really the Star of Solomon. But this is what I mean. Okay, these New Age occultists, okay, their whole basis is from the Jewish Kabbalah, and the Jews taking biblical truths and twisting it in a serpent-like way back into the lie of Genesis 3. Okay, and again, there's evidence of that here. Okay, and again, I've shown this before. There's your tree of serpent climbing your tree of life. Okay, there's your 22 letters of the Jewish alphabet. Remember, there's 322. There's 22 branches on this. Okay, all the symbols in here, and of course, the serpent climbing the tree of life. What they call the tree of life, God in Genesis 3 calls the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So this, all this, what I'm calling the occult conspiracy, is all around us. Okay, it's all around us. Okay, the mark of the beast is here. It's always been here. Okay, it's not some stupid barcode. All right. Yeah, there might be a little manifestation, and as we get very close to the end right here, and they might have some literal kind of things might filter through, but that didn't start last week. Okay, to read these people, you'd think, well, nothing happened biblically until the very end. It's a ridiculous notion. It's a ridiculous approach to the whole thing. Okay, but anyway, what I was saying about Israel in Ezekiel 36 is that God did, He did have a hand in reestablishing Israel. And they were regathered from the four corners of the earth and all that, and sent to Israel. But it's not because He was particularly fond of the Jews. He did it, and He says it. He did it to protect and to maintain His own name. Okay, He's going to say, I'm going to prove to the world that I am who I say I am. I'm going to reestablish the state of Israel, because at one time they were my chosen people. And He says it, and He says this. He says it not because anything that you have done, but because to protect my holy name. We established Israel, and then that last generation of Jews. I mean, He will save it. As the world, starts World War III, and clamors around Jerusalem, He's going to have sympathy on that last group of Jews that are left in Jerusalem, and they will be saved. But again, not for anything, not just out of God's mercy, okay, and kindness. Okay, He's going to save this last remnant, this last generation of Jews. Okay. But this is nonsense about God's chosen people, and we must support Israel, and send me money so I can send it over to Israel. These imbeciles, they don't know what they're talking about other than that. So anyway, it's very interesting here to read that. And then going on, we shall unleash the nihilist and the atheist, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm. That's interesting, a social cataclysm. George Soros, Rockefeller, okay, funding all these so-called left-wing groups, these imbeciles running around the streets calling Trump, a Nazi and a Hitler, taking money from a Nazi collaborator. Bunch of assholes. But anyway, we shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a great social cataclysm in which and all its horror will show clearly all the nations the effect of absolute atheism. Christianity will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer brought finally out into public view. So the lords of chaos, okay, the god of chaos, which would be Dionysus or Baal, okay, Baal of the Old Testament, Bacchus, the horned god of the Knights Templar, okay, Pan, the Greek god Pan, when we're going to get Pandora's box, okay, panic, pandemonium, okay, and those kinds of words. That's the chaos he's talking about here. So in other words, you have to have order out of chaos. You have to have chaos, and you have to have death. You have to have a massive death. Okay, these people are serious. These people aren't joking around. Okay, this is why I call it kiddie Christianity or comic book Christianity. To watch these idiots on TV. And again, I can't say this enough. Also, this stuff is going on, and it's real, and it's happening. Okay. So if you're listening to these people and you're scratching your head saying, what's going on here? The economy's not going to last that long. The economy's about to blow. Russia, we're about to have World War III. What's going on with this Jewish temple? And you're confused. Hopefully you're listening right now, and hopefully I'm clearing up a lot of that confusion. Again, there ain't going to be no stupid Jewish temple. Just ain't going to happen. All right. So the pure doctrine of Lucifer into public view. How's it going to be brought into public view? The chaos in World War III. Okay. A manifestation which will result from a general reactionary movement which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated at the same time. Well, how's that going to happen? Okay, Adolf Hitler sure tried, but again, he was a lightweight. Checking in at around 15 million in the ovens and the gas chambers, and maybe another 30 million at World War II. Okay, the AIDS virus, and it's children's play. It's child's play. Who knows, 40, 50, maybe 100 million. Okay. How are you going to accomplish it at the same time? The only way to accomplish it is World War III, is a nuclear war. Okay. So then you have, again, I talk about a little bit of the Arab Spring, all that nonsense, creating all these power vacuums, okay? And what's that doing? Okay, now trying to do the same thing in Syria. What it's doing, it's drawing Russia into the fight, and now Russia and the new ally, China. And China's getting involved because they have a staked interest in the Middle East and what goes on there, because they need the oil and the resources of Africa and these other countries. Okay, so now they're being sucked into World War III. That doesn't make any sense. If you look at Syria, again, it doesn't make any logical sense. I mean, it was not that it was it was heaven on earth or anything like that, but Assad, by most standards, it wasn't that bad. I mean, they had freedom of religion, okay? There was no call for a civil war in Syria until the Anglo-American gangbankers, okay, these genocidal maniacs got involved. John Kerry and his image, this ghost in the White House, Obama, Pharaoh Barry, working for his Egyptian high priest overlords, okay, was at the forefront of trying to get us war with that whole, Assad using chemical weapons on his own people, which made no sense. It was so stupid. It was such, that's another thing, okay, the acting, the stories these people came up with, like when the death of Osama bin Laden, okay, that picture with Hillary and the rest of them idiots, Obama and the Biden and the rest of the idiots sitting around a table supposedly watching, Osama being killed on live TV, and it turned out there was no live feed of the whole thing, so the whole thing was staged. I mean, these people don't even apologize for the lack of respect they have for the idiocy of the American people. And to be honest with you, I'm not saying I can blame them. Okay? I'm not sure I can blame them. I mean, look at the nonsense these people get away with. Okay, but anyway, all this acting, it's all well and good, and it's all funny, I guess, or whatever. But it's leading us up to World War III. It's not that funny anymore, okay? Because the world's teetering right now. Russia's looking at Syria and saying, wait a second, that's our last ally. That's our best ally in the Middle East. If they let Syria turn into a power vacuum, just like Libya, I mean, now you're getting physically close. Now the entire Middle East goes. Now Russia's whole southern borders. Then you got the Ukraine. Don't forget that whole fiasco, taken over by neo-Nazis, supported by the Nobel Peace Prize winner Pharaoh Barry and his wicked witches in the north, east, south, and west, his Newland and Queen Jezebel and these other miserable whatevers. Okay. So, what sense does it make? What logical sense does it make to start a war, make Syria worse, completely lie about it, start a war with Russia, World War III? Doesn't make any sense, any worldly sense, until you read this letter, until you read this occult conspiracy. Now everything's starting to fall into place. Now the picture's becoming clear. Okay, and that's really, Then I go on to say, what. Just a lot of the information is kind of out of order with the link here, but then it circles back to Barack Obama or Pharaoh Barry, okay, who I'm calling the image of the beast, who's residing as president, the 44th president, the number of Horus, okay, who was the son of God, the son of Osiris, or the West, or the dead sun god, okay, the death of the sun god Osiris. He was taken away symbolically in the Garden of Eden by the evil god who we call God, okay, who Jesus calls, I'm the Son of God, I am God. Because you have that God, then you have Osiris, whose death, okay, is represented by the setting sun of the West or the Occident, okay, the dead sun god. That's what Osiris represents, okay. These people really think that Lucifer is the God, and that the God that we call God, the Christians call God, is the evil one for trying to keep them from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. This is how deeply occult-oriented these people are, okay? These people are serious. This isn't joking around, okay? This isn't playtime Christianity, okay? This isn't Jews for Jesus, all right? So that's Osiris, okay? That's what he represents. And of course, we have this all-seeing eye here over this unfinished pyramid of Giza, Apollo, Osiris, or Nimrod. Okay. Now he's synonymous with the rose. Okay, he's associated with the rose as a rose cross. Now the cross happens to represent the four kingdoms of nature, or the feminine, divine feminine, or Isis. Okay, Osiris' sister / mother / wife. Isis, okay, the whore of Babylon. Now the word whore, Israel whoring themselves, like in the book of Hosea, in the Old Testament. Now those words take on a whole new meaning, okay? But anyway, so you got Osiris, or the rose, or Occident, or the West, and you got their sun, okay? And you got the female, the cross, Isis, or the east, of the rising sun. Okay, so those two get together, and what do you get? You get a new sun. You get a rising sun in the east. Now the east, another name for Isis or Diana or Artemis or whatever, female goddess, Luna, Minerva, okay, who occupies the top of the Capitol Dome, Washington, D.C., as it faces the phallus of Osiris, the 555 or 6,660 inch tall obelisk, or a phallus of Osiris, known as the Washington Monument in Washington, D.C. So you got the phallus of the dead Osiris sticking up out of the earth, and you got the whore of Babylon impregnating herself with the children of Satan. Okay, and what is this child of Satan? These children of Satan are represented by what in the ancient world? The number one symbol was Horus, or the Egyptian Pharaoh. Okay, the Egyptian Pharaoh was, he was the result of this unification, this divine reunification of Isis and Osiris. Okay, he represented he segued back into the Garden of Eden. Okay, he was Horus, also represented by the 5. Okay, the 3, 4, 5 triangle of Pythagoras. Okay, now Pythagoras didn't invent the Pythagorean theorem. numbers have always been around. Okay, numbers are at the foundation of creation. Okay, the Pythagorean theorem existed before Pythagoras. He didn't invent it. Okay, 3 squared plus 4 squared equals 5 squared. You know, the sum of the squares of the two short sides, equal the hypotenuse. I mean, it's 47th theorem of Euclid, whatever it's called, or what some of us call basic high school geometry. Okay, but the Egyptians venerated the 3-4-5 triangle because to them, not only did it represent the great architect of the universe, which is another name for Osiris or Apollo or Nimrod, or that funny all-seeing eye at the top of your capitalist pyramid on the back of your Federal Reserve note. Okay, that's the invisible God. Okay, and his son is the Pharaoh, represented by the number 5. Now this is what I get into at the end of this article, and also it circles back. You go on the homepage, and I go into this. I keep going back to Pharaoh Barry. Okay, because where did he go to school? We're told Occident or Occidental University. There's no records that he ever went there. At least he hasn't produced any. And maybe there's like one photograph that said, "Oh yeah, this is, sitting on a couch somewhere, smoking some joints with some weirdo, some unnamed person. Oh yeah, this is Obama at Occidental University," but we don't know that because we can't get his records. And also, where else did he go? So we got the Osiris part of the equation, the West Coast, the California, setting sun, Occident, Osiris. Where else did he go to school? Supposedly Columbia. Okay. Another name for the feminine goddess, Isis or Osiris or Minerva. Luna, Libertas. Okay, Statue of Liberty, the Roman goddess Libertas. Okay, the Babylonian Ishtar. Now, what does she so you got the Columbia, but Obama never went to Columbia University. There's no record of him ever being there. There's no yearbook picture. There's nobody on campus in the early 1980s that can recall this charismatic community organizer known as Pharaoh Barry ever having stepped foot on the campus of Columbia University. So you have the Occident plus the Columbia. Now you can understand why I call this guy Pharaoh Barry. And then he's the 44th president. The 44 just so happens to represent the number of Horus. Okay, if you go back in Egyptian mythology, and it has to do with the mass of the eagle, and which is the eagle's representation. The American bird, the eagle. No, it's a phoenix rising from the ashes. Okay, order out of chaos. The ashes, the world is going to burn. Nuclear war. What's going to rise out of that is this body of Lucifer, Albert Pike. Okay, Lucifer will be on display. Okay, and who better to induce that than the son of Satan himself, Pharaoh Barry, the modern American Pharaoh, the son of Occident and Columbia. Okay, and just to conclude this link, there's more information here. Okay, I'll go back into May 1st. Now, May 1st is an interesting day. We talked about that a little bit on past shows. May 1st is, World Workers' Day, World Socialist Day. It's a big holiday in the old Soviet Union, World Communist Day, Karl Marx and all that. It's also huge with the radical environmental movement, the anarchists and the weirdos and the Mother Earth or the Gaia or the ISIS worshipping weirdos. In the radical environmental movement, it's known as Beltane. Okay, May 1st. Okay, May, Maya, another synonym for the female goddess is Maya, or the month of May, halfway between the spring equinox and and the summer solstice. The longest day of the year is May 1st. Okay, so it's the anniversary of the French Revolution. It's the establishment of the Bavarian Illuminati. Okay, now Illuminati, that's Illuminati as in illumination. Okay, it's going to get any more obvious. Now, the Bavarian Illuminati, the destruction of nations, the destruction of national borders, destruction of religion, destruction of family. Okay, the Illuminati tenets of the establishment of the Illuminati is one and the same with the Communist Manifesto. Okay, so the whole there is no such thing as atheism. Okay, these imbeciles, these Darwinists, these a-holes, okay, who teach that Darwin is science, and there is no atheism. Okay, Karl Marx was an avowed Satanist. Okay, so May 1st is a huge date. Now, knowing all that, you know, it's the environmental movement, the foundation of the Illuminati, World Workers' Day for communists everywhere in the world. Now, who else jumps on the May 1st bandwagon but our friend Pharaoh Barry? Okay, there's a link on here. People don't remember this. There's so much crap coming out of the White House. It's such a sewer. It's hard to keep up with all this raw sewage that emanates from Washington. Okay, the District of Columbia, the District of Isis. Okay, the District of the Female Goddess. Okay, but anyway, there's so much crap coming out. People don't remember. May 1st, 2012, Pharaoh Barry deemed Loyalty Day. Okay, and you can read about the nonsense here. Here's the link. You know. Barack Obama, President of the United States of America, proclaimed May 1st, 2012 as Loyalty Day. Stupid American, stupid people. You can't see through this guy. So anyway, so you have that whole thing, and then it goes back into into the numbers. Okay, 44. Okay, I reviewed that a little bit again. Okay, here, according to The Secret History of the World by Oxford historian Mark Booth, 44 represents the unification of male and female based on a numerology of ancient Hebrew. Now I wrote this years ago before I came across information that 44 is also the number of the eagle, or the number, or the 5, or the 3-4-5 triangle, Horus, or the Pharaoh. Okay, so here you have Pharaoh Barry, the 44th president. Again, so just on that alone, okay, so you have the 44th president, Mystery Babylon, okay, Occidental and Columbia. He never went to either college, okay, especially Columbia. And he just wasn't there, so why would they take this ghost, this no-name, this nothing politician, and make him the 44th president? Okay, in other words, Pharaoh Barry is an occult. He's a sick joke. Okay, our criminal Illuminati overlords, the ones you don't hear about on Fox News, the ones that gave us this. If you think Trump's going to stop the national calamity, this national debt calamity that's about to, no, it's going to collapse, and they're going to blame it on Trump. That's what's going to happen. Trump's being set up like a piece of Play-Doh. Okay, I'm not even speaking of Trump. He's surrounding himself with Ted Cruz and Mitt Romney, that Bilderberg rhino hack, and Jamie Dimon. Okay, of J.P. Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, Bilderberg member, and I'm pretty sure Mitt Romney went to a Rockefeller-sponsored Bilderberg meeting. So you think Trump's going to solve all these problems? He's surrounding himself with the same establishment hacks that everybody else. It's all theater. Okay, it's all theater. I mean, I hate to say it. I hate to disappoint people, but anyway, the people that gave us this gave us Pharaoh Barry as number 44. Okay, and I'm the contention right now. There's so much evidence. The Occidental and Columbia president. I'm not sure this guy's going to leave office. Okay, and I can't say it for sure, and I'll go out on a limb. But we may be just on the verge of the chaos. Okay, they don't want to see Trump in. They don't want to see America taken back. I mean, maybe Trump's legit. I don't know. I happen to. Maybe the guy's got too many deals he made on his way up. Too many political deals. He's got to pay back people now. Who knows? But he's not the answer. Okay, ultimately, God's the answer. And by the way, God's Simple Salvation Plan, your links on, pretty much the top of all the pages on my website. I suggest you take God up on His Simple Salvation Plan, by the way, and don't set your hopes and dreams on Donald Trump. Okay. But I'll just conclude with that. Okay. I'll just say that there's way too much occult numerology and coincidences, etc., tied to Pharaoh Barry for it all to be a coincidence. Okay. And I'm just scratching the surface. Okay. Just one more interesting tidbit of information. Okay. This thing right here, financed by J.P. Morgan. Okay. In honor of Robert Christian. Okay, that's covered heavily in my first book, They Live, Great Society of the Undead, in section 3 of the appendix of my first book, and links throughout my site. But anyway, the cornerstone, or the foundation stone, the stone, okay, the stone on top of the stone pyramid, the stone that the builders rejected. Okay, Jesus himself in Matthew 21 calls himself the stone. Psalm 118, the stone of the builders rejected has become the head of the corner. Now, if the builders rejected a stone, what does that imply? That they accepted a different stone. And there it is. Okay. There it is. But anyway, this thing is mimicked here. Okay, right here, St. John's Divine Cathedral, right there in Manhattan, Mystery Babylon, USA. But what I was getting at was that I could never tie dates down. Okay, I know these occultists, they're heavily into dates and numerology and all this other thing. But this thing was the foundation stone, or the cornerstone was laid for this thing on December 26th, 1892. Okay, now you add 120 years to that. Now, they happen to think that Moses is one of the great sages of Freemasonry and the founder of Freemasonry. And you may know that Moses died at 120 years of age. So 120, and for other reasons too, the number 12, the 12 constellations of the zodiac, and all this sort of thing, and the numerical, multiples of 12 and all this sort of thing. But just suffice to say, the 120 is a big deal to these people. So you add 120 years to December 26th, 1992, you end up at December 26th, 2012. Now, that was very close to, of course, remember the Mayan end date of December, what it was, 21st, 2012, or whatever it was. I could never tie that date down. I knew it was significant, that December 26, 2012 was significant. Now, of course, December 26th, December 25th is not Jesus Christ's birthday, by the way. It's a Roman Catholic. They borrowed it from Roman and Greek and Egyptian paganism, Babylonian paganism. December 25th is the low point, is the death, represents the complete darkness of the earth. Right after the winter solstice, December 21st, 22nd, whatever it is, but I'm not exactly sure why, but December 25th is really the birthday, or represents the low point of the Egyptian sun god Apollo or Osiris, and represents, for the year, his darkness, okay? And of course, December 26th is the first day, that he starts to rise again. And of course, the sun god, longest day of the year, June 21st, the summer solstice. Okay, that sort of thing. In solstice, you got Sol. Okay, Sol Invictus is another name for the Roman sun god, who some may know as Jupiter. Some of us may know as Apollo or Osiris or Nimrod or Baal. Okay, etc. So these names, these things in the Old Testament start to make a whole lot more sense. But anyway, December 26th is a very significant date. I can never tie the two together. Well, what is it? Well, what information I tripped across within the last year. Now, December 26th, 2012, just so happens to represent the 216th week of Pharaoh Barry's presidency. Okay, now 216, of course, represents 6 times 6 times 6. Okay, now you could say, oh, this is getting stupid. It's just a coincidence, but just start putting this stuff together. Okay, and again, there's a whole bunch more on the links, the Pharaoh Barry links. Okay, on the homepage, boxofsunglasses.com. There's way too much here for this all to be a coincidence. Okay, you have this no-name politician. Nobody knew who this guy was. Comes out of nowhere. No voting record. Okay, no real name. No social security. No birth certificate. No collegiate background. Except that he claims, and the world claims, he went to Occidental in Colombia. The 44th president, whose 216th week just so happens to align with the 120 years to the day of the founding of this thing. okay, the Cathedral of St. John's the Divine, the home of the modern religious environmental movement, okay, right here, okay, an edifice in dedication, just like cathedrals everywhere, all over the world, in dedication to the sun god Hermes, or the son of God, Hermes, Thoth, or Mercury, or Robert Christian. Okay, so this is tied in with Obama as well. Okay, so you can't tell me that this is all, it's just all a coincidence. Okay, the no name, no background, male, female, hermaphrodite, Pharaoh Barry, the mystery man of the hour, the ghost, all these coincidences. It's just not mathematically possible. Okay, the guy had no voting record, nothing to speak of. Now, of course, you can't even get people to to talk about his forged birth certificate. I mean, that's all taboo. Even Trump, dropped the ball on that one. He gave up on that one. Okay, but think about that. Okay, you had an illegal presidency, so everything the guy did, Supreme Court appointments, laws that he broke, everything he did really needs to be invalidated, but it's never going to happen. Okay, so the presidency is already, the credibility of the presidency is already gone. Okay, so anyway, so I just leave it with that. So this is why I call this guy Pharaoh Barry, and he's the image or the beast. Okay, just like in ancient Egypt, the Pharaoh was the image of everything, of the sun god. Okay, he was the visible image. Okay, and of course behind him he had the high priest advising him and teaching him and all this sort of thing. So when I say the high priest of finance, Rockefeller, Rothschild, and the rest of them, this is the equivalency I'm making. Okay, and if you read about ancient Egypt, back in the Old Testament in Ezekiel 29 through 31, for instance, things don't turn out too good for ancient Egypt, or the book of Exodus for that matter. Okay, the 10 plagues of Exodus and all that, now that 10th plague, where God kills the firstborn of Pharaoh and the firstborn of the animals and throughout Egypt. Now that makes a whole lot more sense. Okay, because again, the firstborn represents is a perpetuation, a constant rebirth, a reminder of the birth of Satan, of the birth of Cain. Okay, Cain was, John chapter 8, Cain was a murderer. You're of your father the devil. He was a murderer from the beginning. Okay, what's he talking? He's talking about Cain and Abel. Okay, Satan. Cain was indwelled by Satan, just like Judas was. Okay, and God's chosen people made a covenant with Satan, as children of Satan, with Judas, as per Matthew 26, for 30 pieces of silver. Okay, and that's recorded in Zechariah, I think it's chapter 11. Okay, so again, you can see when you make these connections. What I'm trying to do here is tie in current events and what we call reality with the Bible. Okay, in a correct manner, in a manner that makes sense. Okay, there's nonsense about people getting the mark of the beast and it hasn't happened yet. And of course, it's happened. It's right here. The image of the beast, or the mark of the beast. Okay, no one can buy or sell. Okay, without it. That doesn't mean you worship the beast. There's people that do worship this thing, like Albert Pike and his Illuminati and his Satan worshiping friends, and those people are going to hell. Okay, no doubt about that. I mean, they have they accepted the mark of the beast? Of course. Does that mean they have a stupid microchip on their forehead? No. But they sure as hell, no pun intended, accepted the mark of the beast. Okay, this crowd behind this World War III that we're going to have. Okay, the crowd that brought us these things. All right, so again, the occult conspiracy is all around us, I guess is the point. Boxofsunglasses.com. Do my best to get on here 9 p.m. Eastern Time every Tuesday and Thursday. Family obligations, work obligations, this sort of thing does not allow me to always do that. But if I'm not here, again, there's the YouTube channel. Next week might be tough, obviously Thanksgiving and that sort of thing. So Thursday's probably off next week, but Tuesday I'll do my best to get back on here. 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Good night and God bless.